To MMA Fancast. My name is Luke Pace, and I am joined by first-time guest of the show and recent victor and still undefeated fighter, Zach Drzemiecki. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You got a really nice win Saturday for the live cage fights at Morgantown. I got to be there live, which was great. You're now 2-0 in MMA. You train out of Stout, Pittsburgh. And so let's jump in to the fight, and we're actually going to go backwards. But let's start with the fight. Walk us through the fight as it was for you, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So started off. I didn't feel like I was as clean as I should have been. I got caught, in the first round, wobbled me a little bit. We ended up getting to a scramble situation where he ended up mounting me and then getting me in a guillotine, I believe. And I fought out of that. And so that's pretty much the end of the round. Definitely knew I lost that round. My coaches told me I lost that round. So I was like, sweet. That was not a good start. But second round did a lot better. Came out nice. Landed a couple shots, got a nice takedown. Went right to mount, started dropping some bombs. He actually did a nice move. We pushed off the cage and turned me. And then so went right from there, went to get in a triangle. And if I would have just had his arm to my right side, I probably could have just snapped it in half. But I couldn't really hear what my coaches were telling me to do at the time. It was so loud. But then so I had him in a triangle. It was pretty tight. And then I just started trying to pound his face in at the same time. Then round ended after that. Third round started. He threw a kick, kind of.
Well, before we get to the third round, Zach, I appreciate it. You were very obviously 1-1 going into the third. So what was the advice from Mike Wilkins? First off, as we back up, I've been a corner for MMA fighters, and I always asked. I like telling MMA fighters directly, you didn't win that round, right? Like, I like being upfront. I've had some MMA fighters ask me to not tell them that, to say something like, oh, hey, okay, that wasn't, whatever, and to not actually tell them. Mm-hmm. So first off, is it important that your coaches in the corner actually tell you honestly the way they see the fight going after round one? Then we'll get to the end of round two.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes a long way. That way, you're not like, oh, I did, kind of decent, no, like they're blunt, like you lost that round. It's like, okay, yeah. All right. I felt like I lost that. I even told them, I was like, I felt like I lost that round. So
yeah. Well, and what was really cool for me is I don't always get to go to MMA fights as a fan. So it was nice to be there as a fan, as a supporter, and not, I did some interviews and stuff like that, but to not have to be calling the action. Of course, I know the Stout guys really well. I've known Mike since he was 18. So I'm a big fan. Anyhow, it wasn't a great first round, but one thing I've always enjoyed about Mike is, and any good coaches, is the mid-fight adjustments, right? And you as a fighter really showed more skill having a bad first round, because that happens to everybody, and being able to come back out. So after the second round went really well, I mean, the second round was a dominant round for you. What was the advice coming in the third round, and what did it feel like knowing that it's almost like you started the fight again, because it was clearly 1-1? I don't think there was much argument with that. So what was it like emotionally in the corner coming into the third round?
I felt like I was where I needed to be. Everything felt like it was good. Like I didn't feel like I was going to lose it. Where the advice was to go out, get a takedown, and try and get the finish. I didn't even have to get the takedown, so that was nice.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that, because what's interesting is I know every MMA gym has its own style. Mm-hmm. Some MMA gyms specialize more. The Mat Factory is named the Mat Factory. You guys, Stout, Jiu-Jitsu, but every fighter can do everything. At the same time, your gym's known for being well-rounded, but also being very dominant on the ground. I certainly didn't see you as a knockout threat, as an on-the-feet striker, because your opponent in the first round caught you, like you said. So what set that up? Mm-hmm. I mean, you caught him good. I mean, it was incredible. You also had a
It was
range
just a
difference,
1-2.
just a 1-2.
Uh-huh. It was just yeah, it was nice. So he threw like a little body kick right off the rip. Kind of just shed that off. And then he went a little higher the next time. And then I just came in 1-2 and just popped him. And then I saw his like head rock back. So then like I got him against the cage and just started trying to drop some bombs, land as many knees as I could. And then look, the hands were there for the guillotine, so just started trying to work that.
Yeah. I love the quote. I love the quote, the now retired Cowboy Cerrone, when he was asked what his favorite type of takedown is, he said a knockdown. And he has a point, right? That what's great about MMA is wrestling's the best base, right? It's a great base. Kickboxing or really high level Muay Thai is a great base. We've seen that for Adesanya, right? We've seen that for Pahada, who beat him, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if you're a striker, getting a knockdown, or in your case, you got that you got it into the ground. So what was it like getting him in the guillotine? Walk us through the rest of the fight.
So once I had him in the guillotine, I had my back against the fence, and I was trying to just crank my elbow down to like tighten it, and I was like didn't feel like I was really gonna be able to get it. So then I just threw another knee, and then I think he honestly tapped from the knee, other than
Mm.
the actual guillotine. I just didn't think he wanted to take
Ah,
any more
that's
damage.
interesting. I, of course, like most people there, thought he had tapped. It's listed, of course, as a guillotine
Well,
win.
he did tap, but I
Yeah,
think
he tapped. Yeah.
uh-huh. I
What's
think it was
interesting too is you can't legally knee him in the face because of the amateur rules. But I think the guillotine worked great because you obviously knew where his head was. So that's really
yeah.
smart thinking, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, like in the video, like I just actually watched it for the first time today, like the whole thing, and like whenever I had him against the cage and I was loading up with some strikes, one of the knees I threw was like I think even like the announcers called it a knee to the head, but no, it's definitely through the body. But yeah, I know the rules, like where I gotta fuck you up at.
Well, yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that's what people don't always realize. There is a cerebral aspect. I remember being very frustrated. I watched that weird fight where the Funk Master won. Man, I'm blanking his name. The 135
Peter,
pound champ. Yeah, he
Peter
won.
Young.
Yeah, yes, he beat Peter Yan
Uh
by getting kneed in the head. Right
huh.
now, later I felt better because the run back he won and Peter Yan, but I felt really bad for the champ. But at the same time, and I thought there was a bit of acting involved.
Hmm.
But at the same time, he did throw a knee that's illegal, right?
Yeah,
And so it
exactly.
is very important when people, and obviously it's an athlete, he was in the moment, but it is very important. I've often said in amateur MMA or Muay Thai, when knees to the head are illegal, I would always teach the double Muay Thai plum. And instead of, because, you know, the logic is you pull them down into the knee, right? But I would always teach that in amateur, we practice the pulling the head, but you can also control where the head is. So
Hmm.
I would tell people once you grab them, pull them, start to pull them down, but then shove them up so you can
Hmm.
knee to the
Create that space.
right, so you can knee
Uh-huh.
to the solar plexus, and so that way it's a legal strike. You're controlling where the head is at all times, and they'll start pulling away from you when you pull them down. So then you can go with it. So kind of what you did with the guillotine, it's very important, and that's why I think the training and the sparring or the technical drilling is so important, so that you're excelling. Obviously, at pro level, then there are less rules as far as that goes. Um, we're going to now jump back. Like I said, we'll start with the fight. The fight was great. Um, what was it like fight wise? You've had two fights and two finishes. Your first fight was strikes. Your second fight was a tap. No matter what, and this is true, right? No matter what, no matter how you think you're winning, when a guy taps, you're guaranteed to win, right? So it's
Yeah.
always better to finish, right? Because then you don't get some funky judge. We all know those. So how good was it to you rode the roller coaster of emotions? First round was tough. Second round was great. Third round was even better. How good did it feel to actually know it was fully over when he tapped?
It's like cloud nine. I think like the video after the fight of my reaction says it all. I was hyped for sure. the place went wild too. So that was
Yeah. Oh, the
fun.
crowd was great. It was an insane crowd. And of course, it was a very Pittsburgh, Morgantown friendly crowd. Is sort of anything on the west side. Let's go backwards though. What got you into MMA? What got you to Stout? You had your fight, your first fight for the same promotion was in December, so it's really not that long ago. But let's
Hmm.
start even before you got into MMA. What got you into MMA?
So I wrestled like my whole life from the time I was like probably 4 or 5 to about 17, and didn't wrestle like collegiately or anything like that. But I wanted to start, getting into fighting or whatever. So I walked into top tier MMA the one day, and that's where I met Anthony Hodgeback, and he was running this MMA program there, and from then on, me and him like clicked, and he's been like my day one coach since. And then he told me to get a Stout, so went down to Stout, and that's where I met Mike and all the great coaches and training partners and teammates down there.
Well, shout out to Anthony Hobeck. Not only did he get you kind of lined up, he's the one that reached out to me, gave me your phone number, and said you got him on the show, which I love. That, and for any fighters out there that have fighter friends that you think would be great on MMA Fancast, reach out to me. Because through usually Facebook Messenger or my cell phone number makes a big difference. I love covering people. It also shows you are probably the 10th person, maybe more, that a connection with a friend or a connection with somebody who you met at the gym really helps, right? And so I always encourage fighters to recognize that your relationships with people at the gym makes a world of a difference for them and for you. So, and I think
Hmm.
Stout is well known for good relationships, and it really goes a long way. I know every once in a while, at the top level, we could all remember the Winklejohn breakup between Rashad Evans and John Jones. Like it's a shame when that happens, right? It's a shame
Uh-huh.
when Team Alpha Male split. Like it's a shame because those are your brothers and sisters in sport. So I think it's great when there's good relationships between people and it actually becomes something super meaningful. So shout out to Anthony Obeck. He has a big fight coming up for 247. That's going to be an insane card. Since
Absolutely.
I have now made it about a future fight, who are you most excited about from the gym? This isn't to get you in trouble with anybody. I know Anthony Pickard is going to be going pro. Like that's a big time fighter in your gym. But who are you most excited about from your gym, other than yourself, as far as being a fan? And yes, you can answer more than one person to not get yourself in trouble.
Uh, there's there's too many, but uh, let's go. We'll start with Anthony. Then we'll go Miguel.
Oh yeah.
Um, Tim Bailey, Zack Snyder, Mason Deless, Brittany, uh, Lucas Siebert.
Yeah.
They're all like great people, great training partners, push you more than you think you needed, get you where you got to go.
It's also great that the vast majority of the people you just listed out are kind of in that uh, equal weight class to you, which I think also ends up happening, right? The
Hmm.
iron sharpens iron. You end up having 3 or 4 or 5 training partners all within a reasonable weight class. So that
Hmm.
also tends. We see this, right? Camps tend to start really bringing up people in around the same weight class because they can sharpen each other. So
Hmm. And it's nice because they're all just one weight class up, so like we're all
yeah,
around the same size, and it's great.
it makes a big difference. All those guys, Miguel is recovering from an injury that's public knowledge, and he's going to be looking to getting a big fight once he's recovered. You mentioned a bunch of other killers out of the gym. That's just it's incredible. It's also I love plugging this as often as I can. It's also living proof of why the first annual 247 award show. I was so honored to be a part of it. Um, it's why Stout Pittsburgh won Coaches of the Year and Gym of the Year. And there's plenty of great gyms. The Academy is great. The Mat Factory is great. Gorilla House is great. There's tons of great gyms. And at the same time, I think you're kind of pointing out why the gym is such a hotbed for talent. So for you, though, um, 247 has a July card. They have an April card, but it's absolutely stacked. I'm sure you would love to get on that, but it's just completely jammed. Although if Jim Mooney set something up, who knows? Last time I know that you know, I joke that they're going to try to break 20 fights. I think that's not going to happen, but there's a ton of fights on that card. And so, do you want to fight in July for 247? Would you want to kind of predict what you want to do next, or kind of what's on your mind as a 2-0 fighter?
July would be pretty cool. I think I'm gonna talk to my coaches first. I'm gonna come back this Monday, and we'll come up with a nice game plan. Do some hard, smart training. Act like I got to fight, and you know, that way I can train freely. You know, without all the stress and troubles that come with an actual fight.
You know,
So
you're a very thoughtful fighter, and I think that's good, right? Because once you have an opponent, once you're locked into a fight, it becomes that opponent specific. Where a lot of fighters will talk about this. You can kind of grow more when you're just training to train, when you're training for fun, when you're training for creativity. You can come up with, you know, things that work for you because you're not in a camp with an opponent on a date. So that all makes perfect sense to me. I've joked with Jim Mooney, the matchmaker for 247, that on this interview, you know, podcast, I often end up trying to matchmake for him. So far, I don't think I've ever put a fight together. I thought I had when Lucas Siebert was talking about KO, but then he ended up getting hurt. And that ended up not happening. I thought I had put a fight together, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. Congratulations again. A very impressive kind of mid-fight change. You got to finish after a rough first round, and I think that'll really build your confidence because there will be a fight in the future where a round is tough, right? That's the reality of the fight game. But now you have this under your belt where you went from a challenging first round to a dominating second and a finishing third. It's storybook, really. So thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks everybody for listening. It's just a great time to be a fan of all fighters in Western Pennsylvania, Morgantown, that area. It's a hotbed for MMA. I think in the next 3 to 5 years, a lot of these fighters that are on MMA Fancast and kind of local are going to be at the next level in the national scale. So thanks so much for coming on. You've been listening to Luke Basin from MMA Fancast with Zach Drzemiecki.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Luke.
you so much, bud. You take care.
All right, you as well.